Hi, so just by way of quick introduction, because I have a lot of content and I wanted this to be an interactive session. So I'm Hannah, I'm from New York. I am a film producer and mostly in documentary. And I also create events that are about building community through art, through difficult conversation. And over the past year and a half, I have been practicing coaching. My training is through Landmark. I'm not sure if is anyone here familiar with Landmark? Cool, so this content will be somewhat familiar, perhaps. And it has been an extraordinary personal development tool. It's transformational education that is really about how do you live a life that you love, live it powerfully. But what I really got from it is how to be an empowered leader. And I couldn't think of a more important conversation to have than here at ROI. And so I think that there's a lot, this is broadly applicable to our personal lives and to our work lives. So with that, I just want to start with this simple and kind of like striking question, which is where, and to discuss, but where does our leadership actually live? Like, keyword, where? Anyone wants to take a shot at that? Go ahead.
In my job, in my community, I live in mission-driven community in Barcelona, so in my community, and in my motherhood, I said this.
Perfect.
My family.
Perfect. And like figuratively, what do all those things have in common? This is like, I'm getting at something here.
I have responsibility for all these places and other people around me.
Yes. Yeah. So what I want to point out about this that you're saying is that your leadership is not in your head. It's not about your intention at all to lead. It is purely given to you by the way that other people listen to you. Which, if you take literally, is a really powerful and kind of odd idea. But just last night I was watching the documentary, Daphne Leaf's documentary, leading hundreds of thousands of people. It's quite an inspiring story about social change and reform in Israel. And clearly, if Daphne had just decided in her head, oh, I really have this powerful idea, I have all these change reforms that I want to create, that's not her as a leader. It is purely that 500,000, a million people point to her and say, you are the head of this movement. I listen to you as that. So the implication here, and this is where we're going to start, our exploration, is that if you want to get your leadership, it's by affecting and taking full responsibility for the way people listen to you. And that's not something that we have direct control of, right? People are going to perceive us however they choose to, and we put our actions and our communication out, and that's the only thing that we can do to impact the way that people listen to us. But everyone is always going to be listening to us through filters, and so this is the key thing to understand, is that our leadership is in the way that people listen to us. So with that, just putting it in a really simple terms, and this idea is like at the center of everything that I think about in the work that I do as a coach, and in my experience leading production companies and teams, that your power as a leader, the flip side of that is responsibility. Power and responsibility are two sides of the same coin. So I thought to bring a study from Google, knower of all things, but this is a study that Google ran about performance in their company, about what makes good managers. And so for the purposes of this, we'll just use manager as a substitute for the word leader, because I know that our leadership is different, and I wish we had the time to go around and find the nuance of how we each define that word. But for this, the intents and purposes of this, it's leadership as working in teams with other people, really not like being a solitary person carrying out a plan. So, Google, we're going to start with this exercise. They did, I believe, a 2-year study on 1,500 engineers evaluating what was the most important quality of a leader or a manager to the employees that predicted the retention of their team, okay? So this is not in order. So you could take a picture of this, but it's not in order. But I want us to take like 3 minutes. Let's try to write really fast. And see if you can evaluate what you think, you can predict what was the most important to the least important, okay? So can we all take a minute? There's 8 of these. We'll take a minute to write down and order them as you see their importance, okay? Does that make sense? Anyone need clarification? Cool. All right, and everyone has something to write on. And in a moment, I'll show you how they rank. So, in order. Number 1 most important quality for a manager is to be a good coach. Empowering your team, not telling them what to do. That's what I think to define micromanage. Let people figure out their own way to produce results. Being about the whole person, their well-being, their success. Be productive, be a good communicator, help your employees with career development. Have a clear vision and strategy for the team. Have key technical skills.
Explains it.
Sorry?
The vision and strategy in 7 things.
Yeah, it's so shocking. That was my first, like, wow. What are other wows about this? Like, that surprised you in terms of their sequence? Yeah.
Well, I mean, especially in what was surprising for me, because I saw this like a couple of weeks, just that
Oh,
kind
you
of
saw the
review.
study.
So what was shocking for me at the moment was about the technical skills, specifically for Google, because what I was thinking is that probably in a tech company, what people would expect from their managers is to be amazing in technical stuff. So that was surprising for me in that context.
Yes, exactly. I mean, this is a study for engineers. You couldn't think of more technical people. But Google came to do this research because they noticed that, like, common practice across most industries is you promote people who are, like, in a technical capacity to become a manager, and that does not imply whatsoever that that person is equipped to manage. Rebecca and I were having a conversation about that yesterday, how interns at Vice are suddenly promoted to be managers and have no experience with what it takes to accomplish all of these more soft skill things. But to me, the resounding insight of this is that people don't want to be told what to do. And to be a leader is to give other people the space to figure out how they want to approach something, and then being a listener to enable them to achieve that thing. That's what number 1 is saying down over here. And that's why, to your question about number 7, have a clear vision for how they're going to do it. No, people don't even need that from you. So I think that we're going to start making distinctions about, like, what it means to be a leader. It's not knowing exactly how you want to get something done and telling other people how to do it.
But also, to be fair, like from Harvard, there's this whole case study, and basically their first thing is like having a clear vision. So I mean, and it's not. I mean, this is Google, yeah, but it's Harvard. Like, so again, it's quite a reliable source,
Right.
And that's kind of super important.
And
So-
also on like leadership program, like the work very hard about the vision. Like, what's your vision? Make the vision as clear and as something. They speak about vision, like listen to your people like the community. But
Right.
vision is one of the important things, because otherwise, if you don't have a clear vision, how could people join you when making the first?
For sure. So this is what I would propose as like a way we could resolve this right now, and I think we should all see that case study if we're all interested in leadership principles. But maybe it's about a company needs vision, for sure. But does your team need to have vision about exactly how, again, they're going to execute their role? Like, we need to grow our social media following for our brand. perhaps we don't need to tell that person who is creatively empowered how to do that job.
No, maybe not the team member, but a vision for the team. Like that the leader has a vision for the team itself. So like not every single person in the team, I agree.
Yeah.
I think the general vision that you are mentioning on Canvas is not the same vision it's mentioned here. I think this vision means in the strategy for the team in what to do for the specific work. And of course, they must know the vision of your company and where you want to go. So I think that the vision you mentioned before is the higher vision or mission of the company, not this one. This one refers to maybe the method or that the team have used.
Like the execution of the vision.
Yeah. Can I also ask a clarifying question?
Yeah.
The study was done on engineers about their managers.
Yes.
So I think that also maybe, like, if I'm, for example, managing managers, or if I'm a manager, for me, the vision and strategy would be super important. But maybe if I'm under a manager, if I have a good manager, I'll just assume, like, his 10-year vision isn't so relevant to my day-to-day, so I would care about that less, perhaps.
Yeah.
But the manager, it's super important for me as the subordinate, if you will, like, this makes more sense.
Yeah.
And more like
Agreed.
micro perspective.
Agreed. So with that, I wanted to start with this question, not to take for granted. Are you a technician or a manager? And P.S., this truly will save you a lot of time to answer because I was working with an incredible filmmaker. We started a production company together and we're doing amazing work. And when we did a workshop together and came across this research, he just circled the word technician and was like, shit. He did not get, like, the thing that drives him is framing a shot, is editing, and not in increasing the capacity of our team and helping people articulate what they want to do and go perform that better. So I think we got to start by some self-awareness, knowing what we are. It's not to say these are mutually exclusive, but what position are you going to take when it comes to leading others? If you're a technician, you can stay, but you could also leave if you feel like you need to. Okay, so now I want to kind of take us through like some personal development tools that I think are so applicable to these questions we ask ourselves as leaders. And I want to start, we're going to do some more writing now. But we each need to identify, we're going to be workshopping a project in our own lives and ultimately kind of sharing that with each other in pairs. So we'll take 6 minutes for this, but the task here is to identify an important goal or project, and the criteria is that it has to be done with other people, that you've started it, and like other people know about this project. It's not just in your head, okay? So once you have that, we're going to answer these questions. Don't overthink, but just like your first response to these things, okay? So vision comes back here, and to me, the word that I always put out to my team is like, what is our commitment that we want to do? Obviously, for mission-driven work, this is so easy. But this is more, again, this is about like the very big picture of what you're out to accomplish. Is that to grow a business? Is that to make change in a specific sector? Is that to build relationships? Cool. Okay, we can come back to these questions. Like I said, we're going to talk about them in pairs, and we're a little behind, so I'm going to move us forward. Okay. Triangle. Those questions and everything that we're going to look at now distills into 3 core pillars or sides of what makes our performance as a leader. You could boil down really, I believe, any question about who you are as a leader into these 3 things, and we're going to define them. And I've learned about this, as I've learned about this tool, anytime I'm feeling powerless in a project, meaning I don't know what action to take or I don't feel like it's in my control to take an action, this is the diagram that I come back to every time to ask myself, what am I missing? what can I, going back to the beginning, take responsibility for in any of these three areas? These are all things that we are, I'm sure, subconsciously aware of at least, but this is just like helpful context that simplifies how to identify and get ourselves unstuck whenever we're not moving forward and feeling exactly how we want to feel, free or empowered or expressed, or just like kicking ass in your leadership. Personally, I am a recovering control freak entirely. And I really understand now that leadership can actually be fun. And for me, I always related to it as overwhelming. Have been leading organizations, building teams since like I was a tiny person. And I always related to it as like, no, you have to do what I think and what I say, and it has to go according to this plan. And this has helped me entirely just create an idea or a vision, bring people together, create a few guidelines, and relax. So let's go through it. Okay, so just starting at that one layer. This is the simplest thing. And this is obviously reflective of some of the questions that we just asked ourselves here. Our integrity is really, at the end of the day, all that we have for people to count on us. Doing what we say we're going to do by a specific time. And what is really important to me in client services, and this was a big thing, and anyone who's leading a team, is this second part. Our integrity is also about holding other people to account for what they say they're going to do. So how many of you lead a meeting and someone is late and they come in and you don't really say anything? Most of us, right? Especially, it's just so common. Is that holding other people to account? Like, what message does that really tell people about their importance and, like, centrality to a conversation? We need you. No. It's just saying, yeah, it's okay, come and go as you please. And that's how most business operates. I have in the following slides what is so critical for how do we resolve when we notice there's something lacking in our integrity. And by the way, we're not defining integrity as like some moral code. Like, this isn't good or bad, you're honest or you're not. It's so not about that. It's just simply being integral, being whole with your words. Let's keep it so simple. And this is the way that we restore that if it's not there. Again, it might seem so simple, but how often have you, let's use the example of being late, it's so easy. Been late, someone asks you, where were you? And you come up with this long excuse, maybe it's true, maybe it's not, about getting delayed on a train. Tell me, who gives a shit about that? Just no one. No one wants to hear, like, do you want to hear excuses? And so this is a different approach that is really just asking to state, I said I'd be here at this time. I was here 20 minutes late. This means that we're not going to have our full hour for our meeting. And next time I'm going to set an alarm. Like, this part, this last part, what conveying to your teammate, what are you putting in place? Because you've broken some layer of trust. Like, they related to you as the thing that you said, and suddenly that's gone. Why should we expect that pattern is going to change unless you add this last part in? So as we're going to introduce these, we're going to apply them in the list that we've been making about our projects at the end. So kind of like keep this in the back of your mind. This next part is like fundamentally what leadership is about. It's not about the vision, but it's about other people expanding results of something that you created and on their own terms. And I'm just going to go quickly through this, that going back to what we said before about listening, that people are only participating in our work because they see it as an opportunity for them. It has nothing really, maybe like coercion is an effective tactic for a short period of time, like, oh my God, I don't want this person to be pissed at me. generally not the most inspiring form of leadership. And if we want people to take something on inside of a project or an organization that we're starting, we can't take for granted that we know what the opportunity is for them. And by that I mean, we have to start listening so much closer to what is this person really showing up for? Why do they want to be a part of this? Is it their expression? Is it a raise? Like, do I actually know why my team is here? And I'll just share quickly with you that, and I'll put it, and it's at the end, a really brave exercise in getting connected to why other people are on our teams and participating in our work. All good?
Yes, do you want?
Yeah,
Of course.
thanks. So this is what there is to ask when you feel like people are not maybe staying committed to your project, or you're realizing that you're totally shouldering the burden of this. Thank you. Are you putting the request out there for people to support this, or are you trying to drive it on your own? And then finally, are you attached to your way of it getting done? Finally, power. And this part for me is the most complex for Jews in particular. Like, I think we're all aware of some over-analytical neurosis. It's not just a stereotype, perhaps. But this is the conversation in your head that is stopping you from enjoying the work that you do, or from feeling like you can take it to the next level. And this is really broken down by looking at the obstacles of inauthenticity that is in our communication or the way that we're relating to our work. Okay. So what do I mean by this? I'll give you an example. I'm working on an interactive documentary right now with Samsung. And as a producer, like 3 chains down of agencies, I am like, I have been looking at myself as like, I'm just executing this project. I'm just getting it done. I'm given writing a budget. It's signed off. I have no control to sign anything off. Okay. And then on Friday, just some madness hit me. I told Rebecca this yesterday. And I had the chutzpah to call my client and say, this project could be amazing. This isn't good yet. Do you want to do a good project or a great project? And at first she was just like, what the fuck? Like, what are you, like, you know, so unexpected that as we've been relating to each other, for me to suddenly realize, what happened for me is I realized this inauthenticity of I'm relating to this project like I have no say. It's just utterly untrue. And if I'm committed to the vision of this, which is to make great work, why would I not speak up? And when I finally got that, I could say anything to her, and I knew the second I picked up the phone, she was sold. True. The next, like 5 minutes later, she's like, okay, the person who has initiated this project wants to talk to you next week about this, how we're going to develop this further. My proposal is we have to reshoot all of our content. Not a simple solution, okay? So this is a really, really personal investigation of inauthenticity is always about hiding something. It's about looking good or trying to avoid looking bad. And that is totally stripping us of our ability to be free in a moment related to this present opportunity to say, what do I want right now? What is my commitment? What is my vision? And start from that. Okay, so because we're utterly delayed, we can't really talk about leadership mindset so much. We'll go back if we can. I totally brought in some new age mystical ideas here, just simply to say that, in a nutshell, our relationship with Judaism is such that, or there is the idea that the world is constantly being recreated. There is a present moment that is brand new and brand new and brand new, and if any Jew-boos out here, like, this is also a familiar idea, and it's so relevant to the way that we lead. And Sherry was saying, I'll just skip that for now, but Sherry was saying on Monday in her speech about Foster America, one major rule that she's given herself is to stop being so preoccupied by the future. of like, can I think about, 5 years down the line, the strategy, the future of this? Like, ultimately, a strong leader understands that it's in this moment that I have the opportunity to create a new action. So I'm going to leave us with this kind of thinking. We can revisit these tools for how to restore, build power in these 3 key areas of our leadership, or performance rather, and to look at our worksheets in terms of what we've developed about a project that's important to us. Take a minute to think to yourself, where do I know that I am my strongest? Where do I know that I have the most room to develop? So we'll take a minute for that, and then we'll do a paired share. The way that will work, 6 minutes each, and then we'll come back together to talk for 5 or so minutes about what we have discovered. Okay? So just think about your strongest and your room for most improvement. Oh, we have 10 minutes left. Great. Okay, so we'll shorten it to 10. Yeah. Okay. Just because we have 10 minutes left, I just discovered. So everyone, with the person next to you, we're gonna just share with them our project, share with them where you've discovered your strength, your room for improvement, and we'll just have a discussion about that. Raise your hand if you need clarification or you want clarification of how to workshop one of these tools for your project, okay? And I'll yell switch when it's time to do that, okay? So everyone has a partner? You don't have a partner, raise a hand. Guys, I really encourage you to continue these conversations because I don't know, for me it's so juicy. And just sitting with, wait, your name again? Ivana and Karen was just like, just exploring how much fear of failure gets in the way of enjoying the work that we do, or feeling like we have to be a scary leader in order to get the team to have integrity. Or Karen asked, how would I address the fact that people show up late to my meetings, right? And so it's about creating a culture where all these things matter, and then being really like honest with people and saying, look, we operate from a place of everyone matters here. I want to be able to trust. We all want to trust each other's word. So from here on out, like we're going to be discussing. We're going to have a culture of accountability. We have to create these cultures. So I want to just ask, like, was there a particular insight for anyone where they realized, like, damn, I have to do this, like, right after this workshop? Or, yes, for you. What did you, you're shaking your head.
So, yeah, I was just telling Maya about, like, a specific project where I shared this idea with my team, like a very new idea, and basically shared. They were on board. They liked it. And then basically I have done what I said that I would do, but I haven't followed up with them. So somehow, and that was like probably a month and a half ago.
And now you're afraid to follow up because?
Not necessarily afraid, but it just came right now because it's like a very long-term project, and it was just the initiation of it. It's a very big thing. But anyway, it was just like very clear that can affect the other parts in a very clear way.
Yeah, I love that you said that, because whenever one is diminished, the others are going to be affected too. Anyone else have something that struck them in what they shared with their partner, what you heard?
I feel, I don't know, satisfied. Satisfied. Satisfied for the management.
Good.
Smaller.
Good.
Not that maybe.
But that's so reassuring, right? Like sometimes we don't even have like that check with ourselves of I'm doing great. Why am I worrying? I'm doing so great.
Yeah, I'm like, this is my.
Does anyone feel like who else feels like they're doing so great? Great.
Well, there's an
And
I realized like I screwed up a lot over the past 3 years on a project on a lot of these areas, and I think I course corrected in ways that I can see reflected here, so that's satisfying. And I see new opportunities now where I can improve, and help to prevent more pitfalls as I move forward.
think if I can add something,
Yeah.
that integrity, I call it honesty, to be honest.
Yeah.
And I think that when I have a small gap, if I don't have any gap between who I am and who I am as a leader or as a manager, so this when I feel that, I don't know if I'm correct enough, when I feel that I'm the same person, it's not a game, I'm not apt to be manager, I'm not like in position now. I'm some person, so this when I feel that it's...
You feel in the flow. So I know we're out of time, and please come hang out with me if you want to talk. Really, the goal is to, none of these things that we talked about, those prompts for conversation, matter if you're not actually having these conversations out loud with the people that you're working with. It doesn't matter that I realize for myself, oh, I'm late, and so I'm going to set my alarm. It matters that I tell my team, who doesn't relate to me as on time and trustworthy. And it's not comfortable to like come clean sometimes, but don't make it about morality. Just make it about like we can do work together if you know that I'm solid, that I can be here and do what I say I'm going to do. So this is the main thing,
Yes,
because it's the only way to put it in there listening. Yeah.
And you must be authentic. Authentic. And if you are authentic, you can trust in another, and they trust in you.
Exactly.
So this is very important. Another of the place, in the stage, in your little team. But if you are authentic,
Right.
authentic is very
Which means to own your fear. Okay, so we're like totally over time here, but just really quick, this was the exercise I was suggesting before. Interview everyone on your team. Do not respond to anything that they say. You ask them 5 questions, okay? What are my strengths, my weaknesses? What can you count on me for? What can you not count on me for? And is there anything I've done to offend you that I am not aware of? And radical things will come out of this. Things that make you realize I'm an amazing leader and I was not acknowledging myself, because we're so hard on ourselves. And things that it's like, shit, I have been not paying attention in this area. This is where strengths, weaknesses, count on me for, not count on me for, have I done anything to offend you I'm not aware of? You're welcome.